Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my presentation. This presentation is going to cover working at heights hazards, which for the purposes of this presentation are specifically within the field of environmental technology. However, the information I'm going to go over will be incredibly useful for anyone in any industry which requires them to work at great heights regularly. Working at heights hazards are really anything which could cause a fall from a significant height. This can include everything from an equipment failure to horseplay while on an elevated surface, to even strong winds forcing you out from cover over a drop. Of course, many of you have fears of heights, and for good reason, as falls from great heights can easily cause either significant injury or even death. Not to worry though, my presentation will help you safely avoid them. With all of that said, let's get right into it. So, in order to help mitigate working at heights hazards while in the workplace, we need to apply the hierarchy of controls in this context. Now, this is easily done with all of you, as Professor Bell Allen has previously covered the hierarchy of controls in class. The hierarchy includes, in order of most effective to least effective, elimination and substitution controls, engineering controls, administrative controls, and finally, personal protective equipment controls. We will start out now by describing the most effective way of reducing working at heights hazards in the workplace environment, that of elimination and substitution controls. Elimination and substitution controls are by far the most effective in keeping workers safe from the hazards of working at heights, as in most cases, they completely remove the need for workers to work at heights at all. Controls of this type include the usage of flying drones to observe areas high up in the workplace where normally a person would be sent up to observe, the transporting of equipment requiring work done on it up at great heights to a lower, more stable base level, and the providing of stable platforms to all workers required to work at considerable heights. We will now move on to engineering controls, which are methods of controlling working at heights hazards in the workplace that involve the physical modification of the work environment in order to offer the maximum possible passive protection to workers operating at heights. Now, such engineering controls can be very obvious, such as the covering of a hole in a raised surface being worked on with a barrier to stop someone from accidentally falling through. But they can be also less obvious but no less beneficial to worker safety, such as the installation of guardrails all around the edges of high-up platforms which are being worked on in order to help mitigate accidental falls. Now we're going to discuss some administrative controls which can be used to prevent accidents involving working from heights hazards while on the job. Administrative controls are essentially the modification of typical procedures or physical features within the workplace in order to ensure that workers are exposed to heights as little as possible while on the job. This is typically done through the enforcing of a new policy laid out by administrative staff who have identified a particularly hazardous area of the workplace that they wish to be avoided. Some common examples of administrative controls in regards to working at heights hazards include the posting of signs in all the areas of a work environment where a worker is most at risk of experiencing a fall, or else the creation of a new set of standard operating procedures for all workers required to work at great heights in order to better ensure their safety. Lastly, we are going to get into personal protective equipment controls. Although they are definitely the least effective method of controlling working at heights hazards, personal protective equipment, or PPE, controls are a vital last line of defense against potentially life-ruining or life-ending accidents involving falls while working. PPE controls include the utilization of a travel restriction system, so like a tether anchoring you to a part of the workplace, in order to stop you from going into areas which are more exposed to the hazards of falling, as well as the wearing of a fall arrest system, like a full body harness, which we will cover next. So in terms of PPE used to help prevent workers from experiencing an accident due to a fall from a significant height in the workplace, there's probably no more important a piece of equipment that you will find than that of the full body harness. And I can tell you, if you're going into an industry which involves working from significant heights, you're going to be around these a lot and wearing them a lot. They're so important because even if all other methods of controlling fail, these harnesses will still arrest your fall. If something happens and say you're at an elevated platform and you teeter over, the harnesses will save your life. And so really quick, we're just going to go over how to put on a full body harness. You might have to do this in your industry every day. You might never have to do this, but we're just going to go over it really quick because I think it's interesting. So first thing you want to do is you want to grab your harness and you want to hold it so that you can orient yourself, see where all the straps are. If there's any tangles in the straps, obviously you want to untangle them because that'll never do, right? Next things next, you want to identify the arm straps, which by the way are going to be much larger than the leg straps, important to note for later. And you want to place them over your arm, onto your shoulder, make sure they're secure, and then tighten the buckles. There's going to be something that's going to be called a D-ring, which is located at the back of your harness. If you've got it on the right way, it's going to be a big metal ring, and that's what your clamp is going to attach onto back there. So after that, you're going to connect your leg straps around your legs, oddly enough, and tighten the buckles. So for all of your straps, you're going to want to ensure that your fits are snug and comfortable. You're going to be wearing these things a lot, so you don't want them to be uncomfortable, right? When all of this is good, you connect the chest straps and just make doubly sure that everything's good, everything's fitting, and then you can go to work. An important part of every workplace which involves working at heights is the rescue plan that is created to assist an injured worker in case an accident involving a partial or complete fall from a great height takes place. Now, a rescue plan contains various items which deal with helping the injured worker in the fastest and most efficient way possible, including the location and quantity of all equipment required for an emergency as well as first aid supplies, statements for the procedures which will be carried out by personnel involved in a rescue, including the use of any equipment necessary in the rescue, and the provision of medical assistance for the injured employee, as well as the locations of all emergency exits within the workplace, as well as the shortest available paths to reach these locations. If the industry which you want to go into later on involves working at heights, you need to be absolutely sure that there is a rescue plan put in place just in case an accident should occur. If there isn't one, you need to create one immediately with your fellow employees and your supervisors. Thank you all so much for sticking around until the end of the presentation. I hope that the information which I provided has made you think a lot more about working at heights as a hazard, including how it might affect you in your industry, how horrifically dangerous it could be if you don't pay attention to it, and some of the ways you can go about mitigating it with your fellow employees once you get there. So right now, I just have a quick 5 multiple choice questions to go over with you in order to test your knowledge and see if you've been following along with the presentation. We'll go over each of them and their options one by one, as well as their answers. It shouldn't take too long, so please bear with me. All right, so your first multiple choice question is as follows. You ready? Here it is. When putting on a full body harness, what set of straps are last to be connected? Your options are A, the leg straps, B, the chest straps, C, the wrist straps, or D, the arm straps. I'll give you a couple seconds. And time's up. The answer is B, the chest straps. All right, now we're going to go right into the next multiple choice question, not wasting any time. This one is going to be, which of the following is not an example of something you could do to either eliminate or substitute a working at heights hazard in your workplace? Your options are A, provide stable working platforms for all those working at heights. B, use drones to observe high up areas instead of sending somebody up there. C, placing guardrails around the edges of raised platforms in order to guard against falls. Or D, lower any equipment required to be worked on at heights whenever possible, so you can work on it at the ground level. A couple seconds to decide. And the answer is C, placing guardrails around the edge of a raised platform to avoid falls, because that's actually an engineering control, not elimination substitution. All right, on to our third multiple choice question now. It's going to be, which of the following procedures may be carried out by personnel during an emergency from a fall from height, as outlined in the Working at Heights rescue plan that's going to be at your workplace? So you have A, performing a total sweep of the workplace to see if any new accidents might occur. B, setting up new hazard controls immediately, even while the rescue is taking place. C, traveling to the site of EMS facilities and informing them in person about the accident. Or D, provision of medical assistance for the injured worker. Give you a couple seconds to decide. And it's going to be D, provision of medical assistance for the injured worker. Now moving on, we have multiple choice question number 4 this time. Get ready for it. We're going to consider once again the full body harness that you're going to be wearing if you do end up working at great heights. What descriptor is best used to help you differentiate arm straps from any of the other types of straps? So you have option A, they are much larger than the leg straps. Option B, they are roughly the same size as the chest straps. C, they are much shorter than the leg straps. Or D, they are colored much differently from the rest of the full body harness. I'll give you one moment to decide. Correct answer is going to be A. They are much larger than the leg straps. Okay, now time for your 5th and final multiple choice question. Ready? Here we go. Which method of hazard control for working at heights is considered to be the least effective out of all of them? So this should be pretty straightforward. We covered this in class a little bit already. Your options are A, administrative controls, B, personal protective equipment controls, C, engineering controls, or D, elimination/substitution controls. And just yell out the answer if you want to. But it's going to be B, personal protective equipment controls. All right. Well, I think that's going to be everything for my presentation. So once again, guys, thank you so much for paying attention, and I hope you enjoyed it. Hope it wasn't too brutal to pay attention to. And yeah, have an excellent day, and watch out for those working at heights hazards in the future.